Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Jimmy from Just Trading. Today is Sunday, April 26th, and this is your weekly outlook video. So there are two things that we're going to go over before we hit the charts. First thing is looking at MarketWatch to see what kind of big events are coming up that could impact the market. And then the second thing is to look at any kind of big earnings reports that are coming up this week as well. And there are quite a bit. So jumping into it, on Monday we have nothing. Tuesday we have consumer confidence, which does impact the market a little bit during 10 a.m. It does inject some volatility, but not too much. Really, I am expecting some chop as we go, as we lead into Wednesday because we have FOMC right at 2 o'clock as well as the press conference right at 2:30. So that's something that we really need to be mindful of. Thursday, there's lots of data coming out with jobs claims, GDP, PCE, so that's going to be very volatile right before market opens. We'll be looking at some of the pre-market highs and lows to take trades off of that. And then finally on Friday, we have PMI and manufacturing, which is not too impactful as well. So with that said, Wednesday is really the key day that we're going to look forward to. And in addition to that, we will look at some of the earnings that are coming up. I always go to Earnings Whispers to look at what key earnings are coming up, and we do have quite a bit, especially since we have a lot of Mag 7 names. So just jumping into Monday, we don't really have anything. Tuesday, a big one is actually Robinhood and Bloom Energy. Bloom Energy has been pretty much parabolic. It's not something that I've been trading because it has been so volatile. I think it's essentially a meme stock, really. So that's not something I care too much about, but it might move some things. But the big ones are really later in the week when we have SoFi and some of the Mag 7 names with Microsoft, Amazon, Meta, Google right there. We even have Qualcomm, which is going to be pretty impactful. Uh, Especially after the Intel earnings, that was pretty big catalyst even for Qualcomm. So we'll see if it can maintain that heightened price. On Thursday, just some, I guess, Dow names really. When we have ConocoPhillips, Caterpillar, not too much of interest, but really after close, the big one is going to be Apple and SanDisk. So that's pretty much it for earnings that we're going to look forward to. One thing to note when we're getting into some of these plays is because we have some of the setups that I'm looking at, which does involve the Mag 7, we do have to be mindful of which contracts that we select. So if you're looking at contracts that expire after earnings, you're going to see heightened volatility, and it's going to be a lot more expensive than the contracts that expire before the close. So most of these Mag 7 names, they do have uh, contract expiration dates on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So if we're looking at Monday and Wednesday, I think they will be slightly cheaper because the earnings plays are actually after the close. But if we're looking at prices for Friday expirations, then they're going to be a lot more expensive with heightened implied volatility. So with that said, let's jump over to the charts. So first things first, we did gap down on futures at 6 p.m. during the start of the Asia session. So I did clean up the charts a little bit, but let's just jump into looking at the Nasdaq. Let's start out on the daily time frame. We can see that we did reach new all-time highs that we talked about during last week's weekly outlook video. We did create a rally-based rally structure and create some demand above all-time highs. So we will be looking to maintain that. One of the other things that we want to look at is to go down to the smaller time frames. I do have certain standard deviations that are mapped out based on the range during Wednesday to looks like to the end of Thursday, really. So we have that range with when we're treating this little wick down here as your manipulation leg. So using that, we're looking at standard deviations going up to the second one being 27,596 right here, which is my target coming into this week. We did gap down, and since then we actually are actually up and green on the Nasdaq currently. So let's just take a look at some of the lower time frames at the 15-minute. So actually, before I go to 15-minute, I just wanted to point out that we have a 1 hour fair value gap that was created during 11 o'clock hour on Friday. So currently it's holding as support, and we would want to continue to see that holding as support as we approach that 1 standard deviation from that range that I pointed out earlier. So 27,596 is the target as the short-term target. We'll see what happens overnight, but at least that's the draw liquidity right now. As we go over to ES, very similar thing. We have a range, albeit a tighter range, because ES is actually shown to be a little bit weaker compared to NQ. You can see that we actually create some SMT where we have a lower low down here compared to the higher low over here on NQ. So when I see the SMT, that's especially on the bottom, that's going to be an indication of higher prices to come. At least that's the bias. But either way, we will have our drawn liquidity and higher and short-term target as our 1.5 standard deviation. Very similar to how I plotted the NQ one, but instead I actually took the range from the top over here on Friday, April 17th to the bottom, which was the gap down that we saw last week. So that's going to provide us our standard deviation levels. Currently, we are trading above Friday's high, so we do want to maintain this. I actually did not plot out this fair value gap and I didn't on NQ yet, because I do want to see how that reacts overnight. So I will plot that in the morning if that still holds. But really, our target is going to be 7,236 as our next near-term target for the upside. I'm not very bearish on either name, even with all the geopolitical news that's going on, because we don't really have any reason to be based on market structure, right? We are currently still in an uptrend, very healthy uptrend. Yes, you can say that we are overbought, but until we change market structure to the downside, then I can't really be bearish yet. All right, some of the names that I'm going to be looking at throughout this week. The first one will be, I guess we can go to Meta. On the daily time frame, actually let me go to my single watch list chart here. So going over, actually I'll start with Tesla. Tesla, we did come back and we are currently rebalancing this fair value gap, and it's pretty much what I explained last week as well, and earlier in this week if you're in my Discord channel. But as long as we maintain this daily fair value gap and hold price, I am looking to be bullish. If we break down below 367.65, then I will look for a little bit more of a downside. We did reject that trend line up here and the 200 SMA, but this is an area that we wanted to rebalance, especially after earnings. We're currently holding. I was looking at swings, but I thought it was a little bit too risky. So what I'm looking for coming into this week is going to be a break and retest of 382.76, which was Friday's high that we rejected at, and look towards getting back up to the 200 SMA back at 400. So that's my game plan going into the week for Tesla. Next one I'm looking at is actually Affirm. Affirm has actually been pretty quiet since COVID, but the reason why I actually have it on my watch list is because I have quite a large number of shares that I've been long on since COVID. But really, what I do like about it, if we even zoom out even more, is that we have a pretty large weekly fair value gap and a weekly inverse fair value gap that took out liquidity, and we did reclaim this level over at 60.38. With that said, we want to make sure we get back above the 200 SMA for additional upside. We're currently bouncing off the daily 9 EMA, and we are holding. We do have a bullish Harami candle right here for the day on Friday. So this is a bullish looking candle. You can look that up, but basically what I will be looking for would be a break and retest above previous day high on Friday over 64.24, additional upside going back to the 200 SMA. All right, next thing is we're going to go back to Meta. Meta is kind of similar in the analysis with Tesla, where we are rebalancing a daily fair value gap. We actually even approach the consequent encroachment, which is your 50% retracement of or midpoint of that fair value gap over at about 653. We held it and we closed higher than the previous day on Thursday. So this is looking very bullish. On some of the slightly lower time frame, so like the 4 hour, we can see that we do have a lot of strength on that Friday, on a Friday candle, and we are forming a bit of a bullish flag, bull flag right here, with a drawn liquidity at external range liquidity up here at 691.52. So I am looking for us to hold some of these. At least this looks like to be our VWAP, as well as some of the structure that was built here previously at 669. We do get a retest of 669.75. I am looking for some continued upside back to previous day high on Thursday, and then we have our Friday high, which was the 200 SMA. All right, next one we will look at will be Microsoft. And keep in mind that we do have earnings on Meta and Microsoft. So again, these are plays that I will be looking at for the earlier part of the week, and then I wouldn't trade any Friday contracts until after earnings. So Microsoft is fairly similar, where we are holding and bouncing off the daily 9 EMA. So really just looking for a break and retest of previous day high. And the main reason why I've been eyeing Microsoft for quite a while right now is that we still have a gap fill that still has not been filled all the way up to about 480 level, and then we also have our 200 SMA over at 470. So I'm looking for continued upside to fill this gap. All right, next one we have is Google. Google, we have all-time highs as the drawn liquidity, forming a very good bull flag that actually has been breaking out. We validated the daily 9 EMA, so looking for continued upside. This one actually looks very good, especially with the stochastic crossing going back to the upside. So looking for that 349 all-time high target on Google. All right, next one we have is NVIDIA. NVIDIA, we are just at all-time highs, just about at 210.95 was the high of day on Friday. Looking to break that 211.34 as our previous external range liquidity, but really our previous all-time high was at 212.19. So looking for continued upside, and let's just get a break and retest of this 212 so that we can go up even higher. All right, we have PayPal as the next one. And you can see there's a pretty common pattern here that we're looking for continuation, because we are supported by the daily 9 EMAs on a couple of these names. So same thing, daily 9 EMA, we basically got the gap fill, but I'm looking for the 200 SMA and also some of the structure up here that still has not been tested. So looking for a break and retest of 50.59 to then go for that very top of the gap fill at 52.30 and then 55.77 as our next targets. All right, we have two more coming up that I looked at. Target is one. I've been talking about this name quite a bit. If you follow my Twitter, we've been in leaps, which are up very, very nicely. We still have not gotten the full gap fill all the way up to 149, 150, right? So that is my target. So I will ride this trend as long as we can go up on this bullish market structure. We still have not had any kind of market structure shifts to say that we're in a downtrend. So until then, you just have to kind of buy the dips and look for that gap fill to the top. And then lastly, the one I have is Palantir. Palantir looks decent in terms of risk reward. It's actually validating the daily 9 EMA, but we do have a lot of EMAs that are stacked. I like this hammer candle, and we did validate the daily fair value gap here. And if we look back even further, looking at the structure, that we have an inverse fair value gap right here that did sweep liquidity right there, and we did sweep liquidity right there. So when we have these liquidity sweeps, it actually gives me additional ammo to say that we are going to go higher or at least reverse. So we didn't really take out any kind of trendline liquidity. So really, I'm looking for additional upside. If we can reclaim these daily EMAs and get above maybe like the 145 level, that would be additional confirmation for you to go long. but external range liquidity up at 156. We have some at 152 as well. That would be the drawn liquidity to the upside. So those are all the tickers that I will be looking at for this week. Remember, with the earnings coming up, you have to be careful of which contracts you select. But other than that, good luck. Hope you all make some money. Peace out, y'all.